Hey folks, today we're cooking cauliflower soup. It's going to be very simple ingredients: cauliflower, leeks, onion, little chicken stock, and some butter for the leeks and onion. But we're going to put it in the Vitamix and blend it up, and so the Vitamix is going to make this super simple soup into a super fancy soup. All right, let's go. So I've got 2 leeks, so I'm going to use half an onion. One thing about this recipe is you definitely have to figure out like how big is your cauliflower. This is a large cauliflower, so I'm going to amp things up a little bit, but probably not enough to have a whole onion, given that I have 2 leeks. But you could use a whole onion if you wanted. I'm going to use one trick today. It's a tip from America's Test Kitchen about cooking half the cauliflower for a long time, like basically 40 minutes. Cook the other half of the cauliflower less, only 20 minutes. All right, I'm going to rough chop this because it's going to get boiled in the soup after it's sauteed, and it's also going to get blended. All right, I'm actually going to do my leeks on a separate cutting board because we know about leeks and sand. I really like the flavor of leeks in these soups. I'm using half an onion just to kind of like bolster up the flavor, as you'll see. But I mean, like anything, that's up to you. I wouldn't make this soup without leeks, but you could make it without onion if you wanted something even simpler. All right, so now we're going to rough chop the leek to go along with the onion. Just want to cross-cut the fibrous bits. I don't want the dark green bits. One thing that's at least going to look fancy about this soup is, you know, it's cauliflower, onion, leeks. It's going to be white with just a tinge of yellow as we saute these things, and add some chicken stock. My chicken stock is just better than bouillon. It's, call that 5 cups. Okay, onions and leeks. That's a tablespoon of butter. I like butter. Let's make it a tablespoon and a half. All right, we are going to heat this up, stirring and sauteing over low heat. I'll add a little salt. We're not going to brown this, okay? Just get this warm enough so that the leeks will soften. And that's going to take about 5 minutes or so. And that's 5 minutes. To say softened a little bit. translucent onions. Most of the leeks are translucent. That's all we want from this. So we're going to add to this our stock. Again, 5 cups. This is, for me, this is just reconstituted, better than bouillon. I'm just going to do the job. Maybe not perfectly reconstituted or whatever. There we go. So we're going to bring this up to boil. Start simmering. Meanwhile, we're going to break down the cauliflower. For this soup, you can really use all the cauliflower, including the stem, as I'll try to show. You cannot use the leaves, of course. And the trick, which I got from somebody at America's Test Kitchen, is definitely the trick of doing half and half on the cauliflower. It's a way to get some of the cauliflower flavor without it tasting too much like raw cauliflower, which, you know, depending, maybe you're a fan, maybe you're not a fan. You could cook the whole thing the whole time. It gets sort of even more bland, and frankly, this is a pretty mild soup to begin with. Okay, so I'm just trying to get most of the green parts, the larger bits of the green parts out here. Right, that's what we have to get rid of. Those leaves. These leaves taste funky. And in this soup, there's really no room for any funky flavors other than, you know, if you think cauliflower is kind of funky already. It's fine. All right, that's looking good. So now, the good news about this preparation is this is all getting blended anyway. You just have to cut this up enough that it's gonna, when you put it in the soup to boil, it's actually gonna cook reasonably. And we're gonna cook it for a while. So, for the florets, I don't know, that's, you know, these are pieces are getting pretty close to 2 inches. These are not finely chopped, but cut that one. All right. Looking real easy. Now, the one thing I've done is I've reserved the stem here, because the stem definitely has to cook for longer. Now, I've got the white parts off. You can see it's sort of fibrous here around the bottom, and I've started to cut that, but I'm going to cut that a little more so that basically, let's not be putting any anything that looks fibrous like a ginger root in our soup. But that's all you need to do, is just cut off the fibrous bits. All right, once those are gone, we're going to take this, which is sort of the heart, if you will, and we're going to cook it up a little, cut it up a little more finely. getting rid of anything that looks like it might be fibrous. Okay, so this part has to go in first. Otherwise, I'm just going to take kind of roughly what I think to be half of that head. All right, so this goes in the first batch, because we're going to cook this part, including the fibrous stem, a little longer. Conveniently enough, while we were doing that, soup came up to a boil. In the first half goes. I'm going to bring this back up to the boil, and then I'm going to simmer it. And I'm going to simmer this, I'm going to say 20 minutes. 15 probably at least. 20 will be okay. Now this is going to be the first half of the simmer. I'm then going to put the rest of the cauliflower in and simmer it again for the same amount of time. So if I do this half for 20 minutes, that half for 20 minutes, that gets me to 40 minutes, which I think is about right. You could probably do 15 and 15. That's maybe pushing it. 30 and 30 is fine as well. Somewhere around 20 minutes is about the amount of time I like to cook the second half, because it has some of the fresh cauliflower flavor. It doesn't all get cooked off. And this batch, which will be in there for, in my timing, at least 40 minutes, all the cauliflower flavor will be pretty much cooked off by then. Okay, so this back up to the boil, and I'll cover it to simmer, and I'll see you in 20 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes of simmering. And so we have for a simmer, it's not a very low simmer. I've just stirred that a few times. You can see the cauliflower is now starting to go translucent, break up a little bit. That's like a bit of the stem. So you can see it needs to cook a little more, but it's on its way. So that's 20 minutes for the first half. Another 20 minutes for the second half. And bring this back up to boil. Turn it down to simmer again. And I will see you 20 minutes after that. And we'll look at what we got. Okay, 20 minutes of simmering and a couple good stirs. Let's look at what we got. This looks perfect. Some of the cauliflower has broken down into very small bits. The more recent stuff, you can still see it somewhat in there. That's fine, because it's all going to get blended. It's all going to get blended in our Vitamix right now. So I'm going to have to do this in batches, because I don't want to try to fit all of this in at once. So I'm going to take the, whatever you call this, the center part of the lid out, because I don't want to use that with hot soups. And I'll just put in at least half, so that I only have to do this in 2 batches. It shouldn't take more than that. But it would be kind of tough to do that in one batch. Okay, so can't put the lid on because we don't want to trap the steam in there. So I'm just going to do that and hold a paper towel over in case anything comes up. We have hot soups. This is a program that basically starts slow and then speeds up. You'll hear it. You'll hear it. If your blender or Vitamix doesn't have this, just listen to how it's done. It's basically going to start out slow and then turn up the speed as the soup purees. Okay, there's our first half. Looking delicious. I'm going to put that back in our bowl here. Eventually I'm going to put it back in the pot. You can see how thick that is. So depending on the quantity of your cauliflower, you'll and water, you'll get different thickness. This is about how I like it. It's not enough to hold a peak, but it's not watery either. Okay, I need to turn this off. I don't want this pot cooking anymore. And get the second batch in. You'll notice we haven't really seasoned this at all, other than a little salt with the vegetables in the beginning, and the chicken stock obviously has some salt in it. But we're going to test the seasoning after we get it blended together. Okay, so let's carefully clean out this pot, because I'm planning on keeping the soup for a little bit before I serve it. So it's going to go back in this pot. Take that off the heat. Okay, round two. This is going to be pretty familiar. I might edit this out if it's too boring, but turn it up. Okay, like magic, we have our other half of the soup. Both halves now going back into the soup pot for tasting and seasoning. You don't need to cook it anymore, it's cooked. I'm going to put it in this nice pot to keep it warm for an hour or so. Again, you can see the texture. It's thick, but it's not that thick. You need less water for cauliflower if you want it thicker, but I don't think that's worth it. I mean, that's smooth. Okay, for seasoning, as I say, there's really nothing in there but salt right now. I'm going to put white pepper in because I like white pepper. I think it goes well with this. And as I say, this is it's kind of an elegant soup given, certainly elegant given how simple it was, but it looks quite nice. Okay, that does need more salt. All right. So step one, more salt. I'm going to use fresh ground white pepper. And quite a bit, because I think pepper tastes good with this soup. One interesting thing about this soup is It has no cream in it, and it tastes creamy. I mean, people will not believe there's no cream in this. It's you know, the cauliflower, which is blended to the point now that it's whipped. You could serve this, if you wanted to serve it with some sort of garnish. I actually think capers, a few small capers that are rinsed and dried would be really nice with this. That's really good. I'm gonna add some more pepper. You can drizzle balsamic vinegar on this. That's kind of a favorite in our household. And yeah. Other than that, you know, not much to add to the serving other than to dish it out and serve it. Maybe I'll do that just for modeling purposes. Okay, there it is. This is cauliflower soup. Very simple, very foolproof. Really nothing can go wrong there, courtesy of Vitamix. I'm gonna have to eat some of this now. All right, enjoy.